Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
The Hilton sale is on. Now through September 29th, you can save up to 20% on stays this fall and beyond. Long weekends, last-minute getaways, holiday gatherings. There's a Hilton stay for all of them. More moments, more experiences, more destinations. Now 20% off for a limited time because it matters where you stay. Don't wait. Book by September 29th and save up to 20% at Hilton.com. Terms apply. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like expecting the leadership of a team captain on the football field, but getting a sea captain. You wouldn't settle for just anything for your team. Shouldn't it be the same for your insurance? So don't settle for just any insurance when you can go with a leader. State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
If you thought goldenly breaded McDonald's chicken couldn't get more golden, think Golder, because new sweet and smoky special edition gold sauce is here. Made for your chicken favorites. At participating McDonald's for a limited time.
Welcome to the chalkboard, my fellow football nerds, for episode number 204 of Chalk Talk. I'm your host, Shane Haff, and you can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL. I'm joined today by the best co-host in the game. You have heard him on the Tough Cover Radio Show. It's Mark Henry Jr. It's not the Tough Cover Radio Show anymore. I got to change that. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. NFL. Check out his Saturday morning spread here on the Eagles Pinpool Network now. Mark, how are you doing today?
I was going to ask if you had changed the intro for yourself before the show and forgot to, but
I'm going to be introing that wrong for a month. That's so ingrained in my head now.
You've gotten Mark Henry Jr. NFL down now, though, at least.
Yeah. Just one new thing per month.
Yeah. It takes us a bit. It's still preseason for us at the Chalk Talk here. But,
well, no, I've said it 204 times now. So
yeah. Saturday morning spread every Saturday. The audio will be better next week, but breaking down all things college football and NFL, and what a weekend it was in both. I guess it wasn't that good of a college football weekend, but great NFL Sunday, and that's what we're here to talk about.
All right, well, let's dive into it. Going to talk through the week through games again, just briefly for those of you new to the show. We don't cover the Eagles in this game. There's a lot of stuff on the network that will cover the Eagles. We're going to give you a 5,000-foot view of the rest of the league, and we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football. Briefly, it was several days ago, but Miami travels to Buffalo and loses 21-31. I will say the Dolphins looked better in this game, but it was still a Tua turnover that swung the game. So they're driving to tie it up with 3 minutes left when Terrell Bernard intercepted a pass that allowed the Bills to drain some clock before kicking a field goal to go up 2 scores. And by the way, that was after a roughing the kicker penalty gave the ball back to Buffalo in a tie game, and then allowed them to score that go-ahead touchdown. And so just, the Dolphins shooting themselves in the foot time and time again in a game they did legitimately have a chance in. But the Bills have scored 30-plus points in each of their first 3 games in each of the last 2 seasons. And the last team to do that, Mark, was the San Francisco 49ers back in 2009. So the Bills off to a hot start for the second season in a row. Any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, my thoughts are people are talking about the Bills' offense. Like that was a problem, and Josh wasn't throwing it down the field. He went 22 of 28. They scored 31 points. They had 360 yards. That's absolutely not a concern whatsoever. They played two high safety. Joe Brady had a great quote about it where he's like, people are concerned about it, but he laid out the reasons why he thought it was a good offensive performance, and they took what was given to them and accomplished what they meant to in that game. So whatever. He was like, yeah, there were one or two drives we would have liked to have back, but the concern, as always, with the Buffalo Bills to me is the defense. I mean, I guess they only gave up 21 points. It was only 276 total yards, but there were multiple drives where it felt like Miami was just getting whatever they wanted after a year where that hasn't really been the case for the Dolphins. Mm-hmm. So, like always, the McDermott defense is just not one I buy into.
Yeah, they've had some really rough performances, and we'll track, what they're able to do with that down the stretch. So let's get into the more relevant action from Sunday, and we will lead off in the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers beating the Atlanta Falcons 30-0. Michael Penix Jr. was awful in this game. He goes 18 of 36 passing with 2 picks before he was replaced, down 27-0 in the fourth quarter. Nothing went right for the Falcons. John Parker Romo, who was 5 of 5 on field goals for the Falcons last week, which, by the way, led to them signing him to a 2-year contract, releasing Young Hoku, and me picking him up for my fantasy team. Went 0 of 2 on field goals, kept the Falcons scoreless in this game. Not that would have ultimately mattered, but the Panthers notched their first win of the season. Bryce Young was 16 of 24 for 121 yards passing. He was only sacked once despite the loss of 2 interior offensive linemen last week. And I just walk away thinking this game probably says a lot more about the Falcons than it does the Panthers.
The Panthers won this game 30-0. Had less first downs, less total yards, less passing yards, less rushing yards. It's unbelievable. This is one of the crazier just like box scores to result you'll ever look at. I mean, yeah, Bryce Young, 121 yards, whoop-de-doo. I'm not going to react too much to this game other than to say the Falcons were a fraud through 2 weeks. And I know that they were only 1-1, but I was taking them pretty seriously. Obviously, the defense with a lot of rookies on it really performed well against Minnesota. And then the week before against Tampa, took them to the wire. I think now you look at Tampa and we know they take everyone to the wire. Every game with Tampa goes down to a field goal. So I guess it wasn't all that impressive for Atlanta to hang with them when you've seen two worse teams, or should be worse teams than Atlanta, hang with them after that. So yeah, I don't think that there's any real takeaway here for Carolina. Pretty lucky, I think, turnovers, whatever you want to say. What I will say is Atlanta, yikes. I don't know what the fix is or what to change going forward, but that is shocking.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. Let's go to Cleveland. A bit of a shocking outcome here. Cleveland knocks off the Packers 13-10, and the Browns' defense might just be awesome. They held the Bengals to 17 in week 1, and of course that's with Joe Burrow healthy. They held the Ravens to 10 first-half points last week before the wheels just really came off after halftime. And then they held the Packers to 10 in week 3. Now, their offense is still terrible. They averaged under 4 yards per play in this game and only put up 13 points, but it was enough to get a win over an NFC favorite in Green Bay. Quinshon Judkins had a good game. He rushed for 94 yards and a touchdown on 18 carries. He had 34 rushing yards over expectation, and so far through 3 games, he leads all rookies in rushing yards over expectation. And he has the second most yards after forced missed tackles. So he's off to a good start so far. On the other side of the ball, Josh Jacobs rushed for only 30 yards on 16 carries, and his touchdown streak stopped one short of the record of 12 set by LaDainian Tomlinson back in 2004. We had tracked that over the last couple weeks, so I wanted to mention it. And Jordan Love, a quarterback who, people say is better than Jalen Hurts, threw an interception up 10-3 late in this game that ended up costing the Packers the game. So now to be fair, they did have some injury issues in this one. Zach Tom left after the first snap of the game with an oblique injury. Aaron Banks only played about half the games, and Love was sacked 5 times, and some of that comes from those offensive line struggles. But, the Packers looked awesome through 2 weeks, and they stumbled in a big way in week 3. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to find the exact win expectancy point that's most funny to talk about here. But it's 10-0 for a lot of this game. Or it was 3-0 for a lot of this game. So give Cleveland credit for the defense kind of holding them the way that they did all game, not just at the end and making the big play. But it's 1st and goal on the 1, and Cleveland takes like a 16-yard sack or a negative play. And they end up at it's 3rd and goal at the 20. Green Bay at that point, up 10-0 with 3 minutes and 56 seconds left, had a 93.2% chance to win the game. And I actually feel like it felt like it was higher than that, given that it was Green Bay and given that it was Cleveland. You're up 10-0. Cleveland has to settle for a field goal. They take the field goal. All you have to do is get a first down. All they had to do was get a first down. And really, all you had to do was not throw a ball directly to a Cleveland Brown on defense. One of the worst interceptions you'll ever see that Jordan Love threw in this game. I'm a Jordan Love defender, but man, that it's hard to make a defense for that throw. That is an unforgivable throw, and that's the reason they lose this game. And they even have a chance again, to obviously go and win the game with a field goal that gets blocked. But it's hard for me to not go right back to that Jordan Love pick.
Yeah, that was really bad and ultimately swings the outcome of this game. So the Packers drop to 2-1 now. Let's go on to
they go play Dallas next week. So I think for Eagles fans who probably will be rooting for Green Bay in that game, to be honest, even though maybe we should be rooting against Green Bay, I think Green Bay's going to brutalize Dallas next week to make up for this.
Yeah, I would like to see Dallas win that game, but I would like to see Micah Parsons get 6 sacks. So, okay, let's go to Jacksonville. The Jaguars beat the Texans 17-10, and this Texans offense is just really bad. They had 119 yards through the first 3 quarters of this game. Now, they did wake up in the 4th quarter and had 152 yards, but a Nico Collins fumble and 2 C.J. Stroud interceptions, another quarterback who's better than Jalen Hurts, by the way. I don't know if you know that, Mark. Throws 2 4th-quarter interceptions, unable to overcome a 1-score deficit, cost the Texans the game. On the other side of the ball, Trevor Lawrence, who is also a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, completed only 50% of his passes for no touchdowns and threw an interception. So really strong showing from a lot of these guys that are, better than Jalen Hurts. But I'll quit being snarky. I won't do that the whole podcast. I will also mention for Jacksonville that Travis Hunter played more defensive snaps in this game than offensive snaps for the first time, which is what he should have been doing all along, only playing defense. But in 35 offensive snaps, he had 1 catch for 21 yards. And on defense, he was targeted 5 times, allowing 5 receptions for 54 yards. So maybe Jacksonville will get it right, just much too late with the Travis Hunter thing, but he definitely hasn't had the start to his career that the Jaguars were hoping for when they traded up for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that trade's a disaster, especially we didn't mention it there, by the way. And I wasn't a Mason Graham guy in the same way that I think most of the draft community was. I think I had him lower end top 10, if not even outside of my top 10. And my thing with Graham was that I knew he'd be solid. I didn't see like Jalen Carter game wrecker level upside at the D tackle position. And I don't know if you saw this, Shane, but apparently he had like a 54% like pass rush win rate yesterday against Green Bay crazy. Or something like mind-numbingly crazy. I think I've seen a couple different numbers, depends like what you're looking at, but and I think it was a backup O lineman for Green Bay as well, so someone who was filling in that got dominated by Graham. But you look at Jacksonville and what Hunter's done, and then they gave up all those assets to move up. And D-tackle was a big position in need for Jacksonville. A lot of people thought they would take Mason Graham if they would have stuck and picked at 4. And you look at what Graham did, and then you trade up all that to get up there. It's interesting right now. But the Jags, I mean, they should be 3-0. Like that simple. They blew a game last week to Jake Browning and the Bengals, and they're going to really – I think that's going to haunt them for the rest of the year, whether it's to try to win that division or try to get into the wild card. And we're going to go through all this broad picture. We haven't done a lot of tangents yet, so I'm happy to do a tangent here. I think there's 5 guaranteed AFC playoff teams, and you can even quabble with the Chiefs. But let's just say Buffalo,
I believe the word's quibble, by the way.
I think there's a quabble. Is there another word for quabble? Is that a different word? No, I think you might be right.
I think you might be making up words, but carry on.
Yeah, I think I might be combining squabble and quibble. But quibble, let's say that. 5 teams that are probably going to make the playoffs. The Chiefs, maybe they're an if. I'll say they're the wild card. I think we all expect them to, though.
Yeah.
Buffalo, Baltimore, let's say Indy, for the sake of their 3-0 and in a bad division. And then let's say the Chargers. That's 5 teams. Who are the 2 wild cards, Shane, in the AFC outside of that?
Man,
it is not great. Jacksonville has to be in the conversation.
Yeah, I don't trust Jacksonville at all.
I don't trust anybody besides those 5, though. It's New England, the Jets, and Miami. None of those teams.
Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh gets there.
Me too.
I think because you're saying let's go division, but so the Bills are in. Yeah. I don't think anybody else from that division can get in.
Yeah, the Ravens
are in.
I think
the Ravens are in, and I think the Steelers can get there, and I think that's it. I think the Chargers and the Chiefs I would expect to be there. I mean, yeah, it's probably Colts, Jaguars if I had to guess right now.
The other team is the Broncos. If you're still kind of riding with the Broncos. And to be honest with you, I think the Broncos are probably maybe better teams than a better team than Jacksonville or Pittsburgh, maybe. But you go look at the schedules for those 3 teams and tell me who's the toughest. I think it's by far Denver. You look at Denver and, they got through the Titans game, but they have the Eagles still on their schedule. They have some easy, actually their next month and a half is pretty easy, but the way that they close the year is Chiefs at Commanders, at Raiders, Packers, Jags, at Chiefs, Chargers. That's a pretty tough close to the year when you're already 1-2 and your offense looks questionable at best and your defense doesn't look quite as elite as it did last year. If you made me guess right now, I would pick Pittsburgh and Jacksonville as those 2 wild cards, and I don't feel good about either of those teams.
No. Yeah, and we're going to get to the Steelers here in a little bit, but I don't feel good about either of those teams either, but
the Jags offense was not. I will say the Jags defense looks like they might have a real defense. Who is Patrick Graham, their DC? I'm not sure who their defensive coordinator is, but it feels like he's doing a great job. The number I saw, I don't know how many takeaways they had in this game. I know they had 6 takeaways and they had 3 this week. So they have 9 takeaways through the first 3 weeks. I know 6 through 2 was the most in the NFL. Last year, they were least in the NFL by a wide margin in turnovers caused by the defense. And they had, I think, 10 games without a turnover caused on defense, which was 2 or 3 more than the next team. I think it might be turnover luck, but it does seem like that defense has it figured out a little bit.
Yeah, Patrick Graham is the Raiders DC. I'm not sure.
He's the Raiders. He's the Raiders.
I'm not sure who the Jags DC is.
I could have swore it was him. That's funny. I don't know why. It's Anthony Campanile, new DC. I'm not sure who that is. Came from Green Bay. Doing a good job.
About him.
Seems to be doing a good job. That Jags defense coming into the year, I was expecting to be a problem, and so far it's been the better half of the team.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Minnesota, where the Vikings just obliterate the Cincinnati Bengals. They win this game 48-10. And so, despite the fact that Jack Browning threw for 11,000 passes and 91 touchdowns during his season year, according to Adam Schefter, he struggled mightily in this one. He threw 2 interceptions. Did you see the Schefter tweet, by the way?
Yeah. Schefter's really been on one the last couple weeks, it feels like.
Did you see my quote tweet of that?
Yeah. It feels like Schefter, I don't know. I don't know if I know he signed a new ESPN deal. Yeah. So I don't know if that's part of it. If he's just screw it, I'm just going to be a full-on arm of the NFL and a full-on agent mouthpiece. Yeah. I just think I'm not telling you Adam Schefter's been a bastion of journalism or anything like that over the years, but I just feel like he's felt especially weird lately.
Yeah. Well, it's not his fault that he called him Jack instead of Jake and typoed the number of passes and actually just typoed the wrong thing to begin with.
The whole thing, there was 5.
Honestly, it's not his fault that tweet was screwed up back in March when the owners voted not to ban the tush push. So we don't blame Schefter for that. But man, Jake Browning was awful in this game. Threw 2 picks. The team as a whole fumbled 5 times, and they just got blown out by the Vikings. Isaiah Rodgers was a massive beneficiary, and my fantasy team thanks him because I had the Vikings defense, but he had 2 defensive touchdowns. One was an 87-yard interception return. The other was a 66-yard fumble return. The Vikings became the first team to ever have 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 defensive touchdowns, and 2 field goals, all before the fourth quarter of a game. And so historic performance there. Carson Wentz was 15 of 20 for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. He threw the ball under 2.5 seconds on 60% of his pass attempts, going 9 of 12 for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns. J.J. McCarthy's only done that on 17% of his dropbacks over the first 2 weeks of the season. And this offense should be good enough if someone can just be in rhythm and not turn the ball over. Which leads me to the question, Mark, is Carson Wentz going to Jalen Hurts, J.J. McCarthy?
Probably not. Probably not. But I said last week it would be really interesting if that happened. It's funny that it's 48-10, and it feels like Carson Wentz is like an afterthought completely in the game with it happening so much on defense. I did see an interesting tweet from Eagles Eric that does Howie regret letting Isaiah Rodgers go. He's paying Azeez Ojulari, John Mechie, and Adoree Jackson $6.5 million, while Isaiah Rodgers got $6 million. Reminds me of you're not a Phillies guy, Shane, but the Phillies had a relief pitcher last year who they didn't want to pay. I think Estevez got about $10 million, and they decided we'll just give 3 relief pitchers about $12 million, and that'll be better, and that'll be a better use of it. And all 3 were terrible, and that guy went on to be really good elsewhere. So kind of similar cross-sport comparison there. It reminds me a little bit of that, though.
Yeah. They definitely, by the way, regret that. They should have never let Rodgers out of the building, and I said that way back at the time.
Yeah, I agreed because I'm a Ringo. I was always a Ringo skeptic, I guess. So I think it was silly that they let Rodgers go. But, yeah, I don't have much on this game. I'll say the Bengals, props to you. I said last week, I kind of asked the question, can they white knuckle their way to being 6-7, 5-7 when Burrow can maybe come back? And you were a little bit more skeptical than even I was that they could do that. And not a great first. Not
a great first attempt. So let's keep rolling here. Let's go to New England and talk about the Steelers. We mentioned them earlier. Steelers win 21-14. They scored on their first 2 drives to go up 14-0. After that, they went 3 and out, interception, 3 and out, 3 and out, picked up a first down but punted, and then they finally scored again with just over 2 minutes left in the game to take the lead. Now, their defense picked up the slack. They forced 5 turnovers. Drake May threw an interception and fumbled. Antonio Gibson fumbled. Ramondre Stevenson fumbled twice. I don't know why they're playing Ramondre Stevenson at this point, but it is good that the defense can force those turnovers, but it says a lot about the offense when they needed a game-winning drive against the Patriots when they were gifted 5 turnovers. So I kind of believed in the Steelers after week 1 and their offensive performance, and I don't know, it just doesn't look good.
But what I will say about the Steelers, if they win this game, the Steelers, this is a funny thing to say in week 4. I think the Steelers make the playoffs if they win in Dublin. Like, lock it in this week. They play Minnesota in Dublin in a game that's Minnesota minus 2.5 right now. And if Pittsburgh wins that game, their next 2 weeks are Cleveland and Cincy. And I think they're going to win both of those games. So
Cleveland.
Yeah, it's in Pittsburgh. But I think if Pittsburgh wins this game in Dublin, I think they're going to be 5-1, and we're going to be like, how the heck are the Steelers 5-1? And if they lose, I think they're probably going to be 4-2, and we're going to be like, oh, I guess the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. The schedule does get tougher from there, but they got some sprinkled in easy games in there. They've got a Dolphins and other Browns in there. We'll see what the Bears are and other Bengals before Burrow gets back. So I think they are a lock to be 9-8 again, like just going through the schedule.
Yeah, J-Rock says, of course, the Steelers also always make the playoffs. They also always lose in the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably looking at that same trajectory this year, if we're being honest.
I will give Pittsburgh credit for stopping the run here. Kenneth Walker ran all over them for Seattle, and Brees and Fields both ran all over them. Nobody was doing anything on the ground for New England. They gave Antonio Gibson a lot more work than I would ever expect. But Travion was horrible. 2.5 yards per carry for Travion. And I mean, Ramondre was actually their most efficient back, and he got the least work, but he fumbled 2 of the 4 times he touched the ball. Like,
yeah,
I guess that's not true because he had 3 catches as well. But I don't know what's going on with their run game. Drake May was by far their best runner. I've seen a lot of Drake May negativity out of this game. I'm in a group chat that's like an NFL group chat that has all these different types of fans in it. In this one Discord for a shout out to Trilbro Do, the Ball podcast. But they like a lot of the I wasn't focused in on this game as much as some of the other ones, and a lot of like people are crapping on May. He turned the ball over twice. I get it. He got sacked 5 times. I get it. He still had 268 yards. He ran for 45 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns. Like, from when I was paying attention, I didn't think that this was like an irredeemable game from May, but I do feel like online and in general, people have kind of been crapping on.
Yeah, he's still kind of like Cam Ward, in that it's just going to be really hard to evaluate him given what's around him, because the receiving core is so bad for the Steelers, not the Steelers, for the Patriots.
As you saw by Hunter Henry getting 8 of the 28 catches.
Yeah, and last week too, I think the top 2 receivers were running back and a tight end. I can't remember that exactly, but I remember talking about it last week.
The top 3 are this week.
Yeah. So, okay, let's keep rolling. Let's go to Tampa. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers win 29-27. And so the Bucs moved to 3-0, but they're not playing great. Now they have been really banged up. They're missing 3 offensive line starters, and it showed in flags and pressures. They also have been missing Chris Godwin, and now Mike Evans is banged up. But there were 15 combined penalties in the first half of this game. Tampa ends the game with 14 total penalties. The Jets had 7. So a lot of penalties in this game, really sloppy. The Bucs had a 23-6 lead in the fourth quarter. And the Jets score a touchdown. The Bucs kick a field goal. The Jets scored a touchdown. And then with under 2 minutes left, the Bucs are attempting a field goal that would have made it a 9-point game to put it out of reach, but it was blocked and recovered for a touchdown, putting the Jets on top 27-26. Fortunately for the Buccaneers, that's exactly where Baker likes to be, is down in the fourth quarter after not looking very good for a while. He completed 2 20-plus yard passes to get the Bucs in field goal range, and they walk it off as time expires. Emeka Egbuka is just lighting it up so far. He led the team in targets with 8, receptions with 6, and yards with 85, which is important because Mike Evans leaves this game with a hamstring injury, and he only has 140 yards through the first 3 games of the year, so he's already off pace to get that 12th straight 1,000-yard season. That could be further jeopardized if he misses time with the injury. So Godwin may be on the way back. Evans might be on the way out. But Egbuka's looking great, and I think the Bucs pin a lot of their hopes on him moving forward as their leading receiver.
Yeah, they're so banged up on the O-line and Godwin and Evans now, and I think them giving themselves a 3-0 start with a lot of the easy games that we know that they have in division. They have 2 more Saints games. They have a Patriots game. They have a Cardinals. I mean, I guess the Cardinals aren't someone I should mention in that category, but they have 2 more Panthers games. Like they have a lot of easy games left on the schedule. They are always going to compete. I'm going to look at I'm just going to say bravo to them for being 3-0 through all the injuries, even if they haven't played the best of times, if they've made it stressful. They were also kicking a field goal to go up 9 when it got blocked and returned for a touchdown. Like, we probably feel a little different about this game if it closes 29-20 instead of 29-27, where the Jets have the big moment and return it, and we all celebrate the Jets. Aaron Glenn celebrates like they won the game, and then the Bucs go down the field. Did you see the Aaron Glenn celebration on the sideline with 2 minutes left?
No.
Not good. Not good. Doing like the Sirianni high stepping kind of on the sideline, but there was 2 minutes left. So it was like, I was watching the game, and when they were doing that kick, I thought there was less time left based on the way he was celebrating.
Yeah.
I thought there was like 40 seconds, 30 seconds. And I looked at the clock and I'm like, what they're up 1. They're going to be up 1 if they make the extra point. Like, yeah. But pretty hilarious ending. And the fact that the Browns blocked kick into them going down the field and making the field goal into the Eagles blocking the kick happened within about like a minute of each other. And then the Bucks get their kick blocked about 90 seconds later after the 2 blocked kicks. There were kicks being blocked everywhere across the NFL for about like a 180-second span of time. It was unbelievable. It felt like someone like pressed a button in like the home office, the blocked kick button, like Buffalo Wild Wings.
The script was out.
Yeah, crazy.
You know, from what I'm hearing, those just aren't football plays, and they're really tough to officiate, and so we should probably take blocking field goals out of the game. But
yeah.
I mean, is it crazy to think the Buccaneers could contend for the 1 seed in the NFC? So, like, let's look at their schedule real quick. So, they play the Eagles next week. Now, they've traditionally had the Eagles number, but they're really banged up right now. So, let's say they lose that game, right? Let's say they lose to the Lions in week 7, and let's say they lose to Buffalo in week 11. Of the other games, stop me when I hit a game you think they're going to lose. At Seattle.
I think that's tough.
I think they'd win. I'd take them in that one, though.
I think that'll be like close to a pick 'em.
Let's say between the Eagles game and the Seahawks game, they just win one of those.
Okay.
Versus San Fran.
It's a tough game.
Yeah.
But I'll pick them.
Okay. At New Orleans versus New England. At the Rams is a tough game.
I think the Rams are better than Tampa.
Okay. Versus the Cardinals. Versus the Saints. Versus the Falcons. At Carolina, at Miami versus Carolina.
No, I get where you're coming from. I would argue, I think I look at the at Seattle, San Fran games a little tougher than you do, I would say, maybe.
If they get out of the next month of the season, which is Eagles, Seahawks, 49ers, Lions, if they get out of that stretch at 2-2, I think they've got a legitimate shot to go be the 1 seed.
Yeah, it also just depends on these injuries and when do they get
Sure, that's
Dobbs
assuming
back?
you get guys healthy and all of that.
And this, I will say, they should be thanking their stars. They're 3-0 going into this stretch with all these injuries. With who knows when you get Godwin back? Who knows when you get Evans back? Is Gadecki done for the year? I forget if that was a year one. Worse is going to come back at some point. I know they lost Malk. Like they've just lost so much on that offense.
Yeah. Let's see. Was Gadecki, what was his injury? He's on IR, foot injury. All I see quickly searching is that he's on IR.
Yeah.
Expected to miss time, possibly multiple weeks. So it doesn't sound like a season ender.
That doesn't sound like a season ender, yeah.
All right, well, let's keep rolling. Let's go to Tennessee. The Colts beat the Titans 41-20. Mark, the Colts lead the NFL in points scored, just as we all expected they would when we heard them announce Daniel Jones as a starting quarterback. Now, that only lasts until tonight. As long as the Ravens score 23 or more points, they would pass them. But I killed them for the decision to start Daniel Jones, and I was just flat out wrong. Like, I still don't expect Jones to be a long-term solution, but it's become clear they can compete for the AFC South with Daniel Jones at the helm. Jonathan Taylor had a good game in this one. He rushed for 102 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was a rough start. Once again, I feel like we keep saying that for Cam Ward. He throws a pick 6 on the opening drive, but then he bounced back and he played decent. The team around him, and we've talked about this and don't need to belabor it, but is just so bad. But the coach is incredibly bad too. So there's a sequence in the second quarter I wanted to shout out. They chose to attempt a 64-yard field goal in the second quarter that was not like a as time expires thing, and they missed it, which, okay, Joey Sly has hit a 63-yarder before, but I would rather see you go for it there. Like, there's a better chance of converting it 4th and 8 than hitting a 64-yard field goal unless Brandon Aubrey is your kicker. But on the next possession, they're down 17-6, and they come out of the 2-minute warning at midfield and called 3 consecutive run plays without using their timeouts instead of trying to go score. Then they called a timeout to set up a field goal and then took a delay of game coming out of the timeout to turn a 57-yard field goal into a 62-yarder that was blocked. Like, that's just inexcusable stuff. How are you playing for a field goal from midfield with all 3 timeouts in a game you're trailing by 11? And then beyond that, how are you taking a delay of game out of a timeout. So that's inexcusable stuff. The sooner that the Titans fire Callahan, the better.
Yeah, he's an absolute bozo. I will say, we've said on this show, there's not enough talent on this roster to evaluate Cam Ward at all. That first pick six was brutal. That's not a talent evaluation thing. I've seen that play from bad quarterbacks for a very long time. And I'm not saying he's going to be a bad quarterback, or he's definitely a bad quarterback. I know I've given him the excuses. The team's horrible. The coach is an idiot. The receivers are bad. The O-line's bad. It's a nothing organization. But man, that was a lollipop floater across the line of scrimmage with a guy a couple yards away charging in. Like, that's just the type of, I've seen that pick six too many times to look past it, I guess. So I forget the tweet now. There was a tweet from Greg Rosenthal that went out yesterday about Cam Ward's first 7 dropbacks, and part of this is on him, part of this is on the Titans. In their first 7 dropbacks, the Colts had 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and a pick six. So it was a rough first quarter from Cam Ward.
Yeah. Remind me, I'm going to segue this, and you can tell me if this is wrong. I think it is. But speaking of pick sixes on opening drives, let's talk about a guy whose first career pass was a pick six. I think, didn't Marcus Mariota throw an interception, a pick six on his first? I'm pretty sure he did. So Marcus Mariota gets the start for Washington with Jaden Daniels' knee injury, and they win 41-24. It was Mariota's first start in 3 years, and he guided the Commanders to a victory over the Raiders. He was good. I mean, he was fine in this game, 15-21 for 207 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed 6 times for 40 yards and a touchdown. Now, he did lose a fumble on a read option play, but other than that, he operated efficiently in the game. And I mean, he's a perfect backup, I think, for Washington and their style of offense. And that's important because, mobile quarterbacks are going to get banged up and miss time. And so it's always nice to pick up a convincing win in those situations. On the Raiders side, the Raiders offensive line is a travesty. Geno was sacked 5 times in this game. He's been sacked on 12% of his dropbacks this season. Ashton Genty can't get any room to run on the ground. It's just a really, really, really poor situation in Las Vegas. But the Commanders' role in this one, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, this was shocking to me. With Mariota in, I thought, what do the Commanders even do well? I thought the Raiders would win this game outright, and the Raiders are a bad team. Shockingly to me, I thought, just getting a competent head coach, getting a competent quarterback, and getting a running back who I thought would be elite right away, who is not whatsoever elite right away, averaging 3.1 yards per carry. He's been horrible. Yeah, I'm shocked by the Raiders being this incompetent still. I knew that there were problems throughout the rest of the roster. Even the defense, we knew how bad the defense was, but looking at the first 2 weeks, they hung tough. They only gave up 20 to the Chargers. They only gave up 13 to the Patriots. And then against the Marcus Mariota Commanders, they gave up 41. And they were dominated thoroughly on that side of the ball at 400 yards for Washington. They just got whatever they wanted, it felt like. So, yeah, I don't have much to say about Washington. I think they are who we thought they were, kind of, even without Jaden, I guess. But the Raiders, I have to start adjusting my expectations. Like, they're favored next week against Chicago. That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I'd take Chicago.
Same.
Let's go to a couple comments here. J-Rock asked, Cam Ward or Caleb Williams? I see you already answered in the chat. I'm with you. I would take Caleb Williams. I was high on Caleb Williams with some caveats about his ability to play from the pocket and play in time on rhythm. I was not particularly high on Cam Ward. So, I mean, I think Ward has a chance, but I would definitely rather have Caleb Williams.
Yeah, it's Caleb easily for me. And obviously I was way higher on Caleb than I was on Cam as a prospect, not even comparable. I was too high on Caleb. Even whatever I want to say now, I was definitely too high on Caleb. But yeah, it's easy for me. And games like yesterday are a big reason why.
Yeah, and then Ben said it really makes you think, how important is Jaden Daniels when twice Mariota has come in and they haven't lost a step? I still think he's tremendously valuable.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, we see a lot of times a backup can come in and play a game well, and it's just the sustainability. So I think Jaden Daniels is tremendously talented. I also think the Commanders run an offense that can really help out a quarterback coming in a pinch like that. So
your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. And this one is specifically for new customers who can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PINPULL. That's code PINPULL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois, void in Ontario. Bonus bet expires 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan. $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is sponsored by Friskies, who would like to tell your cats hi. Now, if that didn't get your cat's attention, there's one thing that always does the trick. Just pour some Friskies crunchy food in the bowl and you'll hear those paws come running. Works every time. With so many Friskies choices, you can always bring your cats running from their secret napping spots. There's always more to explore. See for yourself at friskies.com or visit your local store.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at NFLSundayTicket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games. Excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
All right. Let's keep rolling. Let's get into the afternoon slate, and we'll go Denver at the Chargers. The Chargers win 23-20. They were up 10-0 early in this game and then found themselves in a 20-13 hole late in the fourth quarter before Justin Herbert leads back-to-back scoring drives to get out with a 23-20 win. The Chargers' offensive line is just in disarray from injuries, though. I mean, Rashawn Slater injured before the season started, and his backup, Trey Pipkins, allowed 11 pressures in this game. And Mekhi Becton left with a concussion and was replaced by Jamari Salyer. Herbert was pressured on 55% of his dropbacks in this game, and so they are going to have to figure something out with the offensive line. But they've got a nice ramp to do this because they're 3-0 for the first time in 23 years. And they did it by beating all 3 of their division mates, who all currently sit at 1-2. And so they have a 2-game lead and the tiebreaker over every team in the AFC West. They've got some room to figure this out, and I hope they do, because I would love to see the Chargers go on a run this year. It was a slow start for Denver in this one. They went 3 and out on their first 3 possessions. Bo Nix struggled again, missed several deep passes. He went 3 of 9 in this game on passes over 10 air yards, and that continues to be a problem for the Broncos. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think this one's was a lot more lopsided than it actually felt. The Chargers outgained them by 112 yards. The Chargers had 29 first downs to Denver's 9 first downs in this game. This game flipped completely on a couple plays, and it flipped on the end of the half. Denver, it was 4th and 2. At this point, they're down 10-0 with 38 seconds left, and they're on the 50. He chucked it deep on 4th and 2 for Cortland Sutton, who beat the safety and caught a deep ball as time with 30 seconds left to end halftime. And it felt like the Chargers just got caught with their pants down on a short yardage play, not expecting them to go deep. So good call by Denver, but felt a little fluky to me. Like the entire half, they had done nothing. And then the end of the half, they throw a deep ball to make a game 10-7. Then you come out of half and they went right down the field because J.K. Dobbins broke a tackle and it just found the lane down the sideline. But it was unbelievable. J.K. Dobbins, who's still really, really good, has no burst anymore due to all the injuries. Like 90% of running backs in the league would have taken it to the end zone. But then they go score and it's 14-10. Coming out of halftime, I think they had 150 less yards than the Chargers at that point. Like the Chargers were dominating them for the entire game, and they're losing 14-10 all of a sudden. And then they fumbled the kickoff, and the Broncos get a field goal. Like the Broncos basically they had 17 of their points in the span of 4 game minutes from the time that there was, or less than that actually, from the time there was 38 seconds left in the second quarter to the time that there was 13 minutes and 40 seconds left in the third quarter. That's where they scored 17 of their points. So for 99% of this game, it felt like the Chargers dominated. And Denver had a nice little 10 minutes of real time.
Yeah. And still almost had a chance. I mean, they had a shot. So
yeah, that's football.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's go to Seattle. Seattle beats the Saints 44-13, and finally we saw a team do to the Saints what we thought everybody was going to do to the Saints this season. They had a turnover on downs going forward on a 4th and 2 from their own 45 that led to a touchdown by Seattle on the opening drive. Then they went 3 and out, and the punt was returned for a touchdown. Then they committed 3 penalties to get to a 2nd and 25, which led to another punt that was blocked and led to another Seahawks touchdown. And it was 20-0 in the first quarter, and the route was on. Sam Darnold was efficient, although he wasn't asked to do a ton in this game. He went 14 of 18 for 218 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jackson Smith and Jigba continues to go on a tear. He had 96 yards and a touchdown on 5 receptions. He has a 40-plus yard reception in all 3 games so far this season. And honestly, I got nothing to say about the Saints. This is who I thought the Saints were, and it's just not an interesting football team.
Heed the Call, great NFL podcast. Have you heard, did you hear the Saints owner when the Saints owner, like the old lady called Ellen Moore in the first press conference?
No.
So now on Heed the Call, anytime the Saints come up, they just, and she has like a funny accent, I'd say. That it's like Ellen Moore is how she says it. So now every time they talk about the Saints, they just play the drop of the Saints owner saying Ellen Moore over and over, and it's a good bit by them. But that's all I have to say about the Saints in this game. Seattle's real. Seattle's a real team. In my opinion, I think that here's another game. We did the AFC playoffs thing. We got some time, I think, to go here. I think there's 8 playoff teams in the NFC right now, and one of those teams is not going to get in. I think it's Philadelphia, Washington, Green Bay, Detroit, Tampa, San Fran, Seattle, and the Rams. And that leaves out Arizona, who's 2-1, Minnesota, who's 2-1. Maybe I'm forgetting another team, but that leaves out a couple of those teams. I think it probably comes down to which of Washington, Detroit, San Fran, Seattle, or the Rams do you expect to miss the playoffs? For me, I guess I still kind of think that there's a chance it's Detroit that ends up on the outs and has the hardest schedule of those teams. But one of those teams I think is going to be like Seattle last year, where they went 10-7 and probably gets sitting on the outside, left out.
Yeah, I think the Eagles, obviously injuries aside, Eagles and Commanders I feel really good about. Packers I feel really good about.
Bucks
Tampa I feel really good about. Those are the 4 I feel really good about. I don't know who comes out of the West.
Still think the Rams.
Yeah, I'm not sold on the on the 49ers, but I could see any of the 3 non-Cardinals teams coming out of the West. And Detroit, I'm just not sure what they are. Are they week 1 or are they week 2? And I don't know. I think there's a chance. If I'm going like assigning slices of the pie, I'll say there's like a 15% chance it's the Lions, like a 50% chance it's the Seahawks, and then what's that leave me with? 35%
for the 49ers.
Like a 20% chance it's the 49ers. Let's bump the Lions up to 20% as well, and a 10% chance it's the Rams.
Okay,
so that's
so
kind of
most
how I would
likely
assign
Seattle
it.
for you.
Yeah, I think so. I
It's
don't trust
fair.
Darnold.
Yeah, that's probably fair. He was great in this game, and obviously the Saints stink. Yeah, Seattle should probably be 3-0 right now, and the reason that they aren't is Sam Darnold. So that kind of backs up your point. He threw away that game against San Fran, but Seattle could be 3-0 right now. Obviously, I'm not going to take away too much from this game. I'm impressed that they handled the business, but I was really impressed by them in Pittsburgh last week. And I'll just tell you, my favorite bet for the entire Week 4 slate already, I won't be able to talk about it on Saturday Morning Spread because it's on Thursday night. I love Seattle getting plus points there in Arizona. It's only plus 1.5, but I think Seattle's going to win that game outright.
Yeah. All right, let's keep roll. J-Rock chimes in, says having to bet on Darnold or Kyler to win when it counts feels like, and yeah, I think that's ultimately why the Seahawks are the team I would not trust in that situation.
Feel the same way about Goff.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Chicago. Chicago beats the Cowboys 31-14. Dak Prescott, yet another quarterback who's better than Jalen Hurts, threw back-to-back fourth-quarter interceptions while trying to come from behind. Before the Cowboys put Joe Milton in to claim those garbage time stats that Dak usually thrives on.
Timeout, by the way. Seattle put Drew Lock in as the backup at the end of the game instead of Jalen Milroe. What are you doing? Let he threw 3 passes, too. Let Milroe throw the passes. At least Milton's like a fun backup.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that, but Jalen Milroe, well, was he active? He might not have been active.
He got a running play. Like they did a package for him in the game, and then they put Lock in at the end of the game. What are we doing, Seattle?
Yeah, I missed that. Yeah, that's bizarre. Let me repeat this line.
I apologize.
No, you're good. Let me repeat it as we segue back in, because it's worth saying twice. So, a Dak Prescott, who is also a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts, threw back-to-back fourth-quarter interceptions while trying to come from behind. Before the Cowboys put in Joe Milton to claim those garbage time stats that Dak usually thrives on. So, per my sources, Dak's pretty grumpy about that, not being allowed to throw for 70 yards and a touchdown in a game that was over. But
I think we should give Milton completions and yards to Dak. Not the interception and not the incompletions. But yeah. I think we should count those 41 yards. I think Dak had 292 yards. Actually, and he went 34 for 40, actually.
Yeah, we should probably assign the interceptions. Let's transfer those to Milton, too, and that makes Dak even better.
Maybe fumbles? Put them on the receiver.
So, injuries continue to mount in Dallas. Trevon Diggs, Kenny Clark, and CeeDee Lamb all left this game with injuries. I mean, we told y'all that the Cowboys wouldn't be any good this year. They're not going to be good. Injuries continue to mount. They're 1-2. Their defense looks horrible. Caleb Williams went 19 of 28 in this game for 298 yards and 4 touchdowns. Luther Burden and Rome Odunze each had a touchdown catches. Honestly, the Bears just roll in this one.
Yeah, the Bears, Caleb looked awesome. Rome Odunze looks like the guy we thought he was in the pre-draft process. I'm trying to see where he is among the league leaders here. It's not quite as high. He's tied for first in receiving touchdowns, but with 4 touchdowns so far this year. He has 16 catches for 227 yards. Both are top 10, but barely top 10. I thought he'd be a little higher, actually, on the boards. But 3 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. I think Odunze looked awesome. Burden had a big play as well. Colston Loveland had a long catch in this game. It was only 1 catch, but it was like the first drive and led to a touchdown. The weird thing about the Bears, and I said this offseason, Like, you had all these picks. They had a lot of money. How did they come into this year with a running back trio of DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai, and Rashawn Johnson? Like, Kyle Monangai had one of the worst rushes you'll see in an NFL game yesterday in the red zone. I think he lost like 11 yards on the play. I mean, he had six carries for 16 yards. Swift ran for 2.5 yards per carry. Now, he had 3 nice catches, 45 yards, but like, DeAndre Swift is just not a starting running back, or like at least a starting running back that doesn't have like a serious like counterpoint. And I don't know if it's worth Chicago trading for a running back this year, but I really do think if they had a running back, this offense could be like really special down the stretch. Even with some of the Caleb mishaps and some of the turnovers of the last couple of weeks, like they've moved the ball in every game. Like they scored 24 points. We saw how they looked in the first half. They were really good in the first half in that week 1 game against Minnesota. We were all tweeting how good Caleb looked. Last week against Detroit, it was a blowout, but they still put up 21. If you looked at the stats, Caleb still had over 200 yards. And like, I don't think the offense was the problem those first 2 weeks in the large part. And I think if this offense had a running game, they could actually be really, really good, but they probably have to settle for being above average for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep rolling on to San Francisco, and the 49ers win 16-15 over the Cardinals. Mac Jones threw an interception in a tie game with 5 minutes left at the Arizona 21-yard line. So, I mean, you're easily in field goal range. Fortunately for them, the defense gets a 3-and-out. Unfortunately for the 49ers, that punt was down at the 6-yard line, and a holding penalty caused a safety on the next play to put the 49ers in a 15-3 hole. By the way, that holding penalty, egregious. That was not a holding penalty. I thought that was a really bad call that could have and should have cost the 49ers this game. But fortunately for the 49ers fans, the defense held after the safety punt. They forced another punt, and then the 49ers moved into field goal range to hit a chip shot field goal to win the game. The ending was a little bizarre, though. I don't know if you saw this, but so they hit a pass down to the 16-yard line with 25 seconds left. And then they hurried up to the line and spiked the ball with 7 seconds left, but they had a timeout. And so they then knelt the ball to run the clock before calling a timeout to set up the field goal. And I mean, technically they centered the ball, but still, that's a big risk when any sort of procedure penalty, a false start, a guy not set, would trigger a 10-second runoff and end the game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's not true because they did have a timeout, so that penalty, they would have had to take the timeout. So I guess the runoff wasn't in play, but it was a little weird. I guess they just, really valued getting that ball centered, but I would be concerned about some sort of fumble in an exchange. I mean, that doesn't really happen, so maybe I'm just nitpicking. I just thought it was weird seeing that happen. Anyways, Ricky Pearsall had a really good game in this one. He had 8 receptions for 117 yards. Christian McCaffrey is not doing anything in the run game. He had 17 carries for 52 yards. Overall, through 3 weeks, he has 176 yards at 3.4 yards per carry with no touchdowns. However, he was very impactful in the passing game with 10 receptions on 15 targets for 88 yards. This was his 12th game in his career with double-digit receptions. The next closest running back only has 7 games of double-digit receptions. So McCaffrey might be cooked as a running back, but he's still being really impactful in the passing game, which is arguably more important. What were your takeaways on this one?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest takeaway is just the Cardinals, in my opinion, are screwed going forward without James Conner. And I was out on the Cardinals coming into the year. I bet San Fran. Actually, let me vent for a second. I all week was saying I'll bet 49ers money line, I'll bet 49ers money line, all this stuff. And then it was -118, -120, -122. And then by game time, it was like -130. And I was like, I'll just bet the -1.5. And I'll just lay 1.5 points instead of betting the money line. And the 49ers win by 1 point because they gave up a safety towards the end of the game. Unbelievable stuff. From
Vegas knows.
I had a great gambling day yesterday. 5-4 at +8 units, would have been 6-3 at +14 units because this was my third biggest play of the day on San Fran -1.5, and they let me down. But Arizona without James Conner on a short week against Seattle, I think that's going to be a big problem for Kyler. There's not going to be a run game to kind of help divert the attention away from Kyler. They're going to be able to key in on him, not let him run outside the pocket and not let him get outside the edges. I think it's going to be a terrible, terrible matchup for Arizona. So I love Seattle there. And then they have an easy matchup against Tennessee. But after that, you look at Arizona's schedule and it gets brutal. They go at Indy, Green Bay, at Dallas. That's not hard. At Seattle, San Fran, Jacksonville, at Tampa, the Rams. That's a pretty brutal stretch. After that, it gets a little soft again at the end of the year. But yeah, I think the Cardinals are screwed going forward. And San Fran, I don't know what my take is. They've won 3 games by a combined 10 points. And Seattle is a good team. The other 2 teams, I don't think New Orleans or Arizona are any good, really. So I don't know what to make of them. But then again, you could also say, they're winning games, 2 of them without Brock Purdy. So you have to give them some credit and some grace there as well, I'd say. The defense with Saleh looks like it's taken leaps and bounds again. And you look at the talent on that defense, I didn't think they could necessarily get back to those defenses of the D'Amico Ryans, Robert Saleh era of that 49ers kind of regime. And here they are. And it looks like they've figured it out. So I guess I'll hold any takeaways on the 49ers offense, even on the McCaffrey topic that you were talking about. Ricky Pearsall looks really good. I'll give them credit on that. But I'm not even going to kill McCaffrey or the offense or anything like that until we have Purdy back, I guess, which who knows how long that'll be. It seemed like he was out for a long time at first, and then he was questionable at one point last week to play. So I don't know if he's maybe going to play next week against Jacksonville or if this is more of a down the line situation. But I'll just say that San Fran's defense has really impressed me.
Yeah. Okay, on to Sunday Night Football, a game that should have never been on Sunday Night Football because it was never going to be a good game. Kansas City at New York. The Chiefs beat the Giants 22-9. Welcome back down to earth, Russell Wilson. A week after a career-best passing performance against Dallas, Wilson was 18 of 32 for 160 yards and 2 interceptions. He was booed by the hometown fans amid chants for Jackson Dart. This is really just another indictment of the Cowboys' defense. Russell Wilson became the first quarterback to ever, in 3 consecutive starts, go under 200 yards with no touchdowns. Then he played the Cowboys and threw for 450, and then under 200 with 0 touchdowns again in the next game. So one of these games is not like the other ones because one of these defenses is not like the other ones. So more shots at the Cowboys, I guess, but I just think their defense is really bad. Cam Skattebo was the Giants' leading rusher with 60 yards and a touchdown on 10 carries. He was also their leading receiver with 6 receptions for 61 yards. So nice little game for Skattebo. The Giants need to just play Jackson Dart and see what he is. Russell Wilson stinks. Mahomes also struggled in this one. And I thought he struggled against the Eagles some last week too. He had a pair of backward passes that went down as fumbles. He did manage to lead 2 touchdown drives in the second half as the Chiefs put some distance between themselves and the Giants. They get that first one of the season, but the Chiefs don't look good. Granted, they're going to get Rice back in 3 weeks. Presumably, they'll get Xavier Worthy back in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how it looks then. But I don't walk away from this game feeling any better about the Chiefs.
Yeah, neither do I. The Giants, you mentioned the Dart thing, and he should probably come in. But you look at the upcoming defenses, and this week it's the Chargers. I think it's probably better off just letting Russ get eaten up by the Chargers and going 0-4. After that, you have the at Saints game, which I think people have circled for a long time as like maybe Dart gets in there, and that's a kind of a soft landing spot. And that's probably smart. But right after that, you go Eagles, Broncos, Eagles, and then 49ers. That is a pretty brutal defensive stretch for Dart to get acclimated into there. But the biggest takeaway from the Giants-Chiefs game is not about either team. The biggest takeaway from the Giants-Chiefs game is that this Dallas Cowboys defense is truly special. They are going to have a truly special year of being just absolutely demolished by every team that plays them. I think Green Bay has a get-right game where Jordan Love throws for like 300 yards next week. But week 1, I think we had everything we wanted against them in the first half and then took our foot off the gas and got way too soft on it in the second half. Obviously, last week, Russell Wilson looked like he reinvented the game of football and figured out how to throw deep passes again. Right? I think the stat was he was 7 for 9 on attempts of over 20 yards for 264 yards against Dallas in that game. And then Dallas goes out and Caleb Williams has the best game of his career maybe against them. So, man, this Cowboys defense, shouts out to them. My biggest takeaway from the Giants Chiefs is about the Cowboys.
At least they can stop the run now that they traded Micah Parsons.
Hey, Kenny Clark.
It was next level thinking to trade your only pass rush piece so teams just air it out and then they don't run on you. So next level stuff there from Jerry Jones.
Yeah, and someone mentioned that the whole schedule's like that. It does ease up a little bit defensively down the stretch. Like, there's still some tough games in there, but after that stretch I mentioned, you go at Chicago, Green Bay, good defense, at Detroit, at New England, Washington. Like, that's a little cushier for a quarterback than the Eagles twice and Denver and San Fran defense we just kind of praised earlier. So there is a little bit of a cushier spot later in the season. Not gimme for wins. There's not gimmies on the schedule for the Giants for wins, except maybe the Saints, but maybe at least just to look a little better.
Yeah. All right. And finally, let's briefly talk about tonight's game. So obviously this is a preview. The Detroit Lions travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. So my question for this game is, will the week 1 or week 2 Lions show up? Like, what is this offense going to be in the post-Ben Johnson era? And I think we'll find out some of the answers to that tonight, but we're not going to fully know because, I mean, if the Ravens win this game by 21, are we really going to be fully prepared to say, yeah, the Lions stink? Because we both think the Ravens are so good. Lamar Jackson is 24-2 in his career against NFC teams, and he's 2-0 against the Lions. And Lamar and Goff entering week 3 were both tied for the most passing touchdowns in the league with 6 each. So I think this is going to be a high-scoring physical game. I think the Ravens come out on top as long as they don't have a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
they should be fine. Yeah,
can't do it. Can't get up.
Yeah, just be up by 7. Don't have a big lead. Do not get a 98% win probability anytime before like the final 2 minutes or you're toast.
Get a 14-point lead and then just take your defense off the field. Be like, you can go down and get down by 7 and we'll take the ball back. But yeah, I agree. I think the thing that I'm watching with Detroit, and everybody knows that I have decided to hate the Lions, basically. And I've decided to be anti-Lions, and has a lot to do with the way that I think that they act on Twitter as fans. But whatever, that's a whole other topic. When the Lions win, it's proof that they're the best team in the NFL and that they're a full-on Super Bowl contender, it feels like. And then when they lose, it's a fluke. And, the team they play is really good, or, that was just a 1-week anomaly. That week 1 game is just being written off by everybody that talks about the Lions. It's like the only game that mentioned is week 2. But I don't know. I'm not telling you that the week 1 Lions show up. I don't think they're going to get blown out here. I think they'll actually show up on offense. Like, they'll probably put up 20 points. I think this is probably like a 31-20 game, I would guess, for Baltimore. You said if the Lions lose this game by 21, are we really going to think Detroit stinks now? I'll tell you, nobody will think that, because people will find a way to make excuses for the Lions no matter what, because Dan Campbell's funny and they like him and yada, yada, yada. So, no, I think Baltimore wins this game. If Detroit wins this game, I'll eat my words, and we can fully take them out of that kind of conversation we were having earlier, where the NFL, this can kind of be my final thought too a little bit and wrap that up. But I was talking about NFC power rankings in the one group chat I'm in, and everybody kind of agreed, like, the Eagles and Packers alone at the top, even though the Packers just lost to Cleveland in embarrassing fashion. I think the Eagles and Packers are alone in a thing of their own. There was a little bit of a debate. A lot of people seem to think the Rams and the Bucks are that next tier. Now, the debate was some people thought the Lions belong below that tier. That would be me. And some people thought the Lions actually are, like, closer to the Eagles and Packers than the Rams and Bucks. Like, they're the third team and maybe they're in that top tier. I don't see that. Maybe if they beat Baltimore, I will take them out of that next tier and put them in with maybe not Green Bay and Philly, but above LA and Tampa maybe. But if they win this game, that conversation we had earlier where it's one of Detroit or San Fran or Seattle or Washington, one of these teams are going to miss the playoffs, then I'll probably say, all right, we could take Detroit out of that one of San Fran, Seattle, or Washington. We'll miss the playoffs. But I think they're going to lose tonight, so that's all to say nothing. So what I will say is, next week, Detroit will probably be my survivor pick against Cleveland. I've made it to week 4 of Survivor for like the first time in a decade. I usually get knocked out in one of the first 3 weeks. So I'm keeping it simple, stupid, picking the biggest favorite that I don't feel bad about every week. And Detroit is that one, as long as they don't get embarrassed tonight. But someone said, Mark, you sound exactly how I imagine fans of other teams feel about Philly. Absolutely. What I would say is no one talks about the Lions fans being awful. And I think they're terrible online. We've talked about it on here. I think the Lions fandom online, so annoying. To me, the most annoying in the NFL in the last year or two, to me personally. I know other people hate Green Bay, and there's a couple fan bases out there. Obviously, the rival ones, Dallas and New York and stuff like that, but the Chiefs. I don't think enough people talk about how awful and miserable Lions fandom is on Twitter.
Yeah. If Detroit wins tonight, I would put them in that tier 1 with the Packers and the Eagles. I don't think they're going to win tonight, but it would tell me a lot if they have back-to-back good performances and they knock off Baltimore. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would vault them into that tier 1 if it does happen. So
I agree.
Yeah. All right. That is going to do it. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 204 of Chalk Talk. If you enjoy what you heard on the show, and we know that you do, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode. We'll have lots of Eagles content coming your way this week on the Eagles Pinpool Network. Birds of the Round Table on Tuesday. Johnny and I are recording on the Shane Page on Tuesday as well. Mark's news show, the Saturday Morning Spread, will be live on Saturday morning again, talking about his best bets in college action on Saturday, the NFL action on Sunday, and kind of previewing those games. So we'll try to get that up in the feed quickly if anybody wants his advice on the college games before they go live. You can also tune in live right here. Drop us a 5-star rating wherever you stream your podcast. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Shane Half NFL. He is at Mark Henry NFL. Mark Henry Jr. NFL. I got the show right, and I said the Twitter handle this time. I'm at Shane Half NFL. He is at Mark Henry Jr. NFL, and we will catch you guys next time.